Alright, I'm picking up here where we left off with inductive arguments. I just knew that this was going to take probably like 20 minutes, but I'm limited to 15, so I just can't do it all in one video. So let's take a look at inductive arguments. There are a lot of different types. We'll give you some examples. Basically, they're saying that something's probable. It's not 100% true. It can be very likely true. It can be 99.99% true, but it's still not 100%, and that's the key that makes it inductive, is it's not 100%. Examples of this, we can say predictions about the future. Is a type of inductive argument. We can be fairly certain, but they're not 100%. A forecast, they can be fairly certain it's going to rain, but if they're still predicting the future, they could still be wrong, and they oftentimes are. But things like, we could say things like, given the first Tuesday that follows a Monday in November of 2012, we will go to the polls, or Americans will go to the polls to elect a new president, okay, or to re-elect the current president, whichever way it goes. And so, that is likely true. But, things could happen. Our government could fall apart. There could be a catastrophe that could keep the polls up from opening, etc. The other is your predictable neighbor, family member, etc., colleague. Sometimes people are so predictable that you can almost say with certainty, like, he just ate lunch, so he's going to go to the bathroom now. That may happen 99% of the time, but it may not. It may just be an exception where it doesn't happen. So predictions about the future are oftentimes can be fairly likely, especially given past behavior, how much it's the case, but it's still a prediction. It's still not 100%. Statistical reasoning of generalizations. Statistical reasoning can't prove saying 100%. It's statistical, or even be extrapolated to the whole. Just because 4 out of 5 people in a poll say something doesn't mean 80% of people will say it. Generalizations, you use a few particular statements to make general statements. For example, Bill was wearing shorts, he's sweating. John was wearing shorts, he's sweating. Jeff was wearing shorts, he's sweating. Therefore, even if you're wearing shorts today, you probably are going to be sweating. That's probably a fairly accurate statement, but it's not 100%. The book has an example I like, which is the first piece of candy I pulled was a Hershey Kiss, the next one was a Hershey Kiss, the third one was a Hershey Kiss, therefore I must have a bag of Hershey Kisses. That's probably likely the case, but it doesn't mean that it's 100%. Maybe you just got lucky and only pulled Hershey Kisses. Arguments based upon probability. In most cases, in a certain way, that doesn't mean that all will. Just because if most cases end a certain way, that doesn't mean all will. Even though it's probable, it doesn't mean it always will. Somebody can say, 99% of people who take vaccines have no serious side effects. Therefore, you'll be safe taking the vaccine. Well, you could be that 1%, right? Anytime you go to medical, they'll say, yeah, it's unlikely that anything bad will happen, but it's still depending upon probability. Appeal to qualified authority. If somebody's an expert, we can give some extra weight to their opinion, but it doesn't guarantee it. What we say qualified authority, the key is the person has to be an authority in the area, and the more qualified, the more they know about something, the better off they are. You can say something like, my doctor told me to take cholesterol medicine, exercise, eat a healthy diet, and that it would keep me from having a heart attack. Okay, if your doctor tells you that, that's probably true, and it probably will keep you or prevent a heart attack, but it doesn't make it 100% certain. Arguments based on signs, icons, symbols. There's a certain degree to which if there's something printed that we're going to go ahead and accept as true, but that's not necessarily the case. One I like to use is the population signs. This isn't just the case with Decatur. There's one really big one by the airport in Decatur, and it says the population of Decatur is like 93,000. Well, that sign's from the 80s when the population was 93,000. It was bigger than any other town in the area. Since then, Champaign-Urbana is bigger, Bloomington-Normal is bigger, Springfield's bigger. So really, Decatur has kind of lagged. But the city of Decatur has never gone out to change the sign, because why would you change a sign to say you've 25,000 people smaller than it used to be? And so the case is you might think that a sign is proving something, but sometimes they're wrong. There's a sign near where I used to live that said Williams Street, and It wasn't William Street, it was William Street. There's no S on it. Things like that. Signs can be wrong. The other thing is like deceptive packaging. Things, sometimes people are just trying to deceive you, and sometimes they're just wrong. An example of this is, we actually registered for a baby blanket. We were at Target and we liked this baby blanket, and so we decided we would get it because it had like all these little animals on it that we liked, and we particularly liked it because it had a certain group of animals. Like it had a zebra, a giraffe, a monkey. It had a bunch of a bunch of animals that we specifically wanted for kind of our own little inside joke reason, or not really a joke, our own little inside reason. And so we got it, and somebody gave it to us, and we were real excited. All right, we got the blanket we wanted, and we open it up, and it's not the picture on the package. So I took it back and I said, "You guys, this isn't the picture on the package." And there is a case where you would think that if you were selling a blanket with a picture of what the thing looked like, that the thing would look like it. But in this case, you were wrong. It's probably the case. Most of the time, if you look at a picture of what something's supposed to look like, it will look like that, but it's not always the case. Causal inference. Causal inference means cause-effect. And often, what happens is if there's a cause, then the effect will occur. For example, if you smoke, you'll get lung cancer. Okay, there's a cause, there's an effect. If you take this medicine, it'll if you take penicillin, it'll cure your infection. If you hear thunder and lightning, there will be a storm. These are all things where there's a cause and there's an effect. Of course, the lightning and thunder are actually the effect of the other, but of the storm. But there's things that are signs of that, or they're the cause. Actually, the thunder and lightning eliminate, because that's actually a sign. That's actually the wrong way. But the idea is that disease is a cause, or remedies are a cause. That that there would be an effect, and if you do that, then the other will occur. And just because the cause occurs doesn't mean the effect will occur. Just because you fall, it would be almost certain that if you fell 20 floors, you would die. But every once in a while, somebody will fall like 20 floors and live. And so you have to say, just because the cause is there, the effect is not always there. Analogical reasoning. Two things being similar. An analogy is where you show two things are similar and then try to say, because one thing's true, it's true of the other. So analogical reasoning is basically where you're saying two things are similar, makes the attributes of one likely true of the other. Basically, with the understanding that the more alike the things are, the stronger the similarity. Basically, the more alike two things are, the more likely that analogical reasoning will actually hold true. A good example of this is, like I own a Hyundai. It's been a good car. It's had very few mechanical problems. It's 200,000 miles, and really had next to no problems. So your Hyundai should be good for that too, right? And then we oftentimes do this. If you got a product that's a good product, then I feel better about my product as that. And so it's an analogy, because one is true, it's true of the other. But you can do this for other things, like Bill is a member of the the student council, the chess club, National Honor Society, and he's graduating the top 10%. Therefore, Linda must also be, because she's a member of the National Honor Society, whatever, chess club and student council. Therefore, she must be in the top 10%. Legal reasoning. Legal reasoning is basically depends upon precedent, saying, well, this happened in the past, therefore it should hold, or analogy, saying two cases are similar. They have the same problems with inaccuracy, so which is why we have appeals courts, is because legal reasoning isn't 100%. Evidentiary reasoning is reasoning basically that any type of reasoning that says, well, here's evidence. We found gun fractures. We found gun fragments. We found fingerprints. We found gunpowder residue, etc., etc., etc. Therefore, this person must have shot this person. The case is that evidentiary reasoning, while oftentimes can be very accurate, especially the more thorough it is, there's always the case that somebody could misinterpret it, somebody could be creating or giving you false information. There's also the case that that they're missing evidence, that a key piece of evidence is missing. And so that's something that's important. Science, police, history oftentimes depend upon evidentiary reasoning. And finally, moral reasoning. It relies upon emotions and intuitions, and so it's susceptible to error. Anytime you're trying to say, well, this is right or this is wrong, you're using moral reasoning, and that's not going to be 100%. And so that ends our examples of induction. And so the key here, and one thing I want you to keep in mind, is that my goal in all of this is not to say, hey, this is this or this, my goal is not to tell you, hey, you have to, label each type, this is an argument based on prediction. What I really want you to do is be able to tell a difference between arguments that are 100% versus arguments that are highly likely.